Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm very glad to be the first speaker, not from the region. And as the chairman mentioned, that I spent, that's because of I spent too much time waiting for another flight. But anyhow, direct flight from Beijing to any of the Middle East countries may take 8 hours. So you can see that China does, see that quite long distance from this region, which make me have the advantage to see. Sometimes I assume that more clearly about the whole pictures in this region, and definitely I believe that China is not directly involved in this region. So when I write my paper, when I prepared for this conference, and one thing clearly in my mind is I try to speak, as objective as I can, especially analyze this very important conference. Anyhow, first of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank, the center, thank Mr. David for inviting me to this very important and also very interesting conference about the Iranian, sometimes people call it the Islamic Revolution or the Iranian Revolution 30 years after. 30 years ago, the Iranian Revolution, a huge political, I call it the earthquake, it not only changed the path of Iranians' political, economic, and social developments, but also caused the great changes of the geopolitics and reshape the regional political landscape as well. And 30 years after, and the people are still both inside and outside debating about the causes, the nature, and the impacts and the evolution of the Iranian Revolution as well as its future. I believe I personally participated at least 2 conferences sponsored by the Iranian embassy in Beijing, and specifically focused on the Islamic Revolution, especially 30 years after. And the one, is mainly on the first one is mainly focused on, the Iranian Revolution and its impact. And the second one is very interesting because China, and almost at the same time, and in 1978, we started our reforms. And also last year, we celebrate, 30 years of reforms, as well as the Iranians celebrate the 30 years of the Islamic Revolution. So by comparison of the last 30 years, what both countries have achieved, both domestically and internationally, the conclusion, I believe it will be very, very interesting. And of course, the Iranians, they said they have achieved, almost equally with Chinese achievements, but of course, most of the participants at the conference, we just laughed. We didn't argue with them. And the different people, I personally believe, due to the different interests or from different angles, looking at the Iranian Revolution, certainly may come out with different opinions about, what we can define the Iranian Revolution. I personally believe that the Iranian Revolution was a mass revolt against Shah's dictatorship, and also another very important factor is the growing Western consumer culture and the morals, although the Iranians' nationalism at the time played a very important role, but still, the Islamic teachings had served as the ideological guidance for the revolution. Today, as I was asked to say something about the Iranians foreign policies, though, I would very much like to join with, the people or, the audience and to discuss about, domestic changes within, I think, during the last 30 years. But anyhow, I'm focused on the Iranian foreign policies. And for time's sake, I will try to limit my speech within maybe next 15 minutes. I would like to leave much of the times for Q&A, and I also would be very glad to answer any questions, and if you may ask. So my focus of the Iranian foreign policy, mainly I will point out some of the major, some people call it the principles, or some people say the main features or the characteristics of the Iranian foreign policy. Definitely today, what I'm going to say is a Chinese scholar's point of view, my personal, the research. I believe since the Islamic Revolution, Iran's foreign policy has the following the principles or major features. The first principle, I may call it big I, independent, or some people may say that has a very strong characteristic of the Iranian nationalism, to serve Iran's national aspiration as the regional big power. And to some extent, I believe the Iranian people, thanks to the glorious achievements made in the past, and it was a regional big country, are endeavored with a strong sense of self-respect and superiority. And this is very clearly, whenever you talk to the Iranians, they are feeling that, at least the Iranian culture is much superior to maybe other countries in the region. And also, as I said, that one of the important aspects of the Iranian Revolution was a revolt against colonialism and Western, especially the American interference in the Iranian domestic affairs. So, the Iranians condemned Shah to some extent, that Shah was too much subjected to the U.S. domination, and even sometimes at the expense of Iran's national interests. And because of that, after the revolution, the Iranians, in pursuing its independent foreign policy, at the same time, they have been very sensitive to what the other countries treated them. Iranian, while highlighting the basis of mutual respect and equality, and very much wanted to be regarded as a regional power in conducting its foreign exchanges with other countries. I believe that is one of the major features of Iranian foreign policy. The second, the characteristic of Iranian's foreign policy was very much Islamic ideology. The well-known slogan, not East, not West, but Islam, advocated by Iranian Ayatollah Khamenei, was not only the Islamic ideology of the Iranian foreign policy, but it served as the guidance of the Iranians in carrying on the Iranian's foreign policy. And the guidelines, Iranian foreign policy was not only very hostile to the Western countries, but also very much against Eastern countries. I think that at the beginning of the Islamic Revolution, they named 5 countries as their top enemies, including Soviet Union and China as well. And Iran regarded itself as the center of the Islamic world, and safeguarding the world oppressed has taken very aggressive foreign policies, which make Iran itself very isolated in the international arena. I believe that thanks to the setbacks and the worsening of the security environment, Iran had gradually made some significant changes in its implementing the foreign policies. Although seeking the regional interests and improving the security environment has become the priority of Iranian foreign policy, but Islamic ideology still remained an important factor within, in the process of making or implementing Iranian foreign policy. So this is the second big I, the Islam. The third characteristic of Iran's foreign policy, I believe, was export of its Islamic revolution to other countries. And this is very typical at the beginning of the victory of the revolution. The Iranians fanatically believed that to establish a new Islamic order within the Islamic world and beyond was their duty-bound obligation in implementing their foreign policies. Iran had openly appealed to the Arab masses to rebel against the governments, and they also, financially, militarily, and supported the Iraqi Shia to undertake, military actions to oust the Saddam Hussein regime. Iran's fanatic of export its ideals of Islamic revolution had severely suffered setback during the 80 years of war between Iran and Iraq. Afterwards, Iran had restricted its export of Islamic revolution, but certainly not give it up. And then the issue will be very debatable is that, Iran's support of Hamas and Hezbollah, I personally believe is quite complicated and is not, is a type of, the exporting its idea of Islamic revolution, and also partly it may have something to do with the Iranian and the security, and also I believe that partly because Iranian wants to project its influence, as a lot of speakers said at the previously in this morning, that the Iranian want to be, projected its center in the right center of, Palestinian-Israeli conflicts. The fourth characteristic of Iranian's foreign policy was a strong sentiment against the U.S. and Israel. And Iran regarded the U.S. as the principal enemy, the great Saddam, and Ayatollah Khamenei said all the Middle East problems are caused by the West and America, and all Muslims' distresses come from America. And at the other point, he also said that the United States, the enemy, as a matter of fact, is not for the Iranians. It is the enemy for the old mankind. So, but I would say that at the same time, the United States also, listed Iranian as one of the top, the what you call the rich states, and also member of the evil axis. And also, United States, ever since the Islamic Revolution, made numerous attempts to overthrow or to undermine the Iranian regimes, and not to mention that the military and the invasion. So I think both countries are, I think, very hostile to each other. As Israel, I think that the issue is very, very complicated. And if you look a little bit back in the history, both and Iran and Israel are non-Arab countries in this region. And during the short times, both countries are very close. They are close American allies. They have very close military and even the nuclear cooperations. And unfortunately, I would say that the Islamic Revolution turned both countries from close friends, allies, into a deadly enemy overnight. And of course, the after revolution, the Iranian leaders, I think, down from the Ayatollah to, even, the every, the Iranians, they make very harsh, remarks. The typical example would be the hardline, Iranian President Ahmadinejad. The wipe of Israel from the map is, the when, I think the benchmark, recorded this, the durations. And but as a matter of fact, even Iranians regarded both United States and Israel as their deathly enemies, but the treatment is different. The Iranian is more willing to talk to the United States, but they said they would never talk to the Israelis. And I can give you, maybe, share some of, the experiences I have. Once, the foreign minister visited China, Beijing. The embassy, the Iranian embassy, called me to arrange like this kind of press or a conference for the foreign minister to make a speech to explain Iranian's foreign policies. And I asked who should be invited, who should not be invited. The Iranian embassy said you can invite all the embassies, the diplomats in Beijing, except the diplomat from Israel. And also, so this, they give already facts, you can see, the Israeli relations with Iran is quite different. But I talk with many of Israeli scholars, officers, and, in different occasions, ask them the reasons behind. And of course, there are many, many reasons. Ideological is a part of, that. But the main reason, I'm very close to my friends. He is well-known, scholar within the Iranian academic circle. Told me that, privately, of course, that Iranian, the regime is using, and Israeli as instruments, partly to legitimize it's the regime's partly, is for the security reasons, because, by using Israel, and the Iranian can easily penetrate into the center of, the Arab, world, and to be, the safeguarding of the Arabs' interests, instead of, as has much said this morning, that the Arab countries have been declining, partly because of, they are very passive, they have nothing to do, nothing doing very much, about, to promoting the Palestinian causes. I think they believe that this is the main reasons. They use, the Israeli as instruments. It has nothing to do with, the ideology. It's nothing to do with, they are born to hate the Israel. No, they said, strategically speaking, Israel and the Iranians would be good friends in the future, they said. I don't know. The fifth characteristics of the Iranian foreign policy is, the Iranian, very much use the energy as a card in expanding, their foreign policies. Iran as a number 2 oil producing and exporting countries in OPEC, which give Iranian and much of a very important role in the world oil markets. And also, I believe, the energy provided Iran with a much strategic space for Iranians to maneuver. Whenever Iranians get, sort of a pressure and maybe, made some difficulties in the international arena, I think, you can see that they're frequently using the energy cards to cast deals with countries, which will give them and extra, the diplomatic spaces. And certainly, I think, since the Iranian nuclear issue become a very important issue, and the Iranian nuclear issue become a very, I would say, the principal, the main features, of the Iranians' foreign policies. All Iranian and foreign policies is to some extent to preserve or to safeguard Iranian has the rights to carry on the Iranian nuclear programs. And the nuclear issue is rather very complicated. I believe that it has become a symbolic, not only I think in the field of the security, but also I think it is the symbol of the Iranian nationalism. And I found that this has become a national consensus of Iranian national of the Iranian nuclear issue, and even you talk to people in the streets, they are much against the Iranian government, but they still supported the government's policy on the Iranian issue. It will be a political suicide for anyone in the Iranian inside, if even some people outside, if they maybe openly say that they are going to give up all this kind of issue. So I think how to solve this issue is very, very problematic. It needs patience, and also it needs recreative thinking. And as a matter of fact, we are very much encouraged, very happy about the new U.S. administration's policies to directly engage and the Iranian and to solve these problems. I personally believe that although the Iranian nuclear issue is a very big issue, it used to be major obstacles for Iranian to improve its relations with many other countries. But if U.S. or the international community want to solve this issue, if you mainly focus on the Iranian issue, it may lead you no way. So this issue can be solved. I'm not going to discuss about the grand the package, but the main focus. If we want to solve the issue, but you have to talk something else, and definitely the Iranian nuclear issue should be included. If both sides mainly focus, for example, this is a precondition for any improvement with the Iran and the United States. I don't believe by the end of the day this kind of negotiations can achieve anything at all. And our few conclusion remarks. And generally speaking, since the Iranian revolution and the Iranian domestic politics as well as its foreign policies has undergone through three very important periods of changes. The first, obviously, was the period of fanatic politics, both domestic and foreign policies, under Ayatollah Khamenei. The second period, we call it the period of reforms, starting with the President Rafsanjani and ending with President Khatami, 16 years. And the 16 years of the reforms has, I think, brought a lot of changes, both internally and externally. If we look at these 18 years, especially the specific changes between these two presidents, we found that during the Rafsanjani's times of change, because we know that Iran is the reform initiated by Rafsanjani, but Rafsanjani focused on the economic reforms, while Khatami times focused on the domestic, social, and the foreign policies. Then, the third period of time was the current headline President Ahmadinejad, and whose, the foreign policies appear to be more aggressive, more provocative. And I talked to many, the Iranians, Americans, about the elections in 1985, and partly I think the Ahmadinejad be elected as a president was a response of George W. Bush, U.S. former president's reaction. And because, Khatami, appeared to the Americans. I still remember during the time, when almost, the last year of Clinton, the Iranian and, the Americans, they have seriously and negotiated the executive measures and the steps be taken to improve the two relations. And, the two countries, the establish all, a good relation. I'm not to say restore, diplomatic relations. It's very, very close. But unfortunately, Khatami's appeal was rejected by Bush, and also named, the Iran as a member of, the Axis. And so, the Iranian found that, they could not to do anything with the U.S. George W. Bush administration, and they have prepared themselves for a war, for the worst. And this is partly a major reasons why Ahmadinejad be elected. So, so we look at Ahmadinejad's current, his policies. One thing I remind, the audience, to consider is, a kind of very complicated relations between what Khatami has been doing and what initiative, his outreach to the Bush, and what Americans. These interactions maybe is the results we see that the person we don't like to see. So I would end my, the presentation to say that, we know that Iran is rising, and you got more influence in the region, and both the Israelis and the Persians, historically speaking, you are friends. And if we look into the future, I think we just forget about the current period of time. I believe now it's about 30 years, maybe say 20 or next 10 or 20 years, we overcome this, the chapter, maybe a new chapter. Once again, that these two very important non-Arab countries will play very positive contribution to stabilize, the situation in this region. I thank you very much for your patience.